Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
Hello, it's good to be back. Welcome to episode 167 of There's Still Time, the AFTN podcast. I'm your host, Michael McCall, and after being on hiatus for a few weeks, we thought we should resurrect the podcast to bring you a couple of end of season, end of year fun episodes. It's been a fairly quiet time in Whitecapsland, but things are starting to pick up now. So I thought I'd bring you an episode just to round up all the latest news and bring you some full and edited interviews that we did just before the season ended. Some of the stuff you'll have read bits and pieces of on goal.com, MLS Soccer, AFTN itself. But we thought we'd just bring you the full interviews just to add a little bit to some of the news that's come out. So as we said, things have started to get a little bit busier now. No new signings yet, but hold your breath. These will be coming, don't worry, don't panic yet. Few departures to talk about. The biggest of which, and of course no real surprise, is the departure of captain, midfielder, Chilean playmaker and former talismanic player, Pedro Morales. Now, no real surprise that Pedro is moving on to pastures new. The last two seasons, I was going to say a bit of a washout, it's a bit harsh, but not what we expected, not what we needed from our highest paid player. It's just a shame, Pedro was so beat up, the turf, all the injuries, he just couldn't resurrect that form that we saw in his first season here. That season that made him MLS Newcomer of the Year. He's probably had the best ever MLS debut for a Whitecap, and if we ever get a better debut than that, then I look forward to that with licking my lips with anticipation, because Pedro came on, 20 or so minutes, a goal, an assist, just showed the kind of player that the Whitecaps had, and you were really excited for him, and just, it's a shame that he kind of ended his tenure not in that form. At least he did go out with a bang, a sending off in one game and then a cracking goal in the win over Portland. So we've got those memories. We've got his famous bust up with Usted towards the end of the season as well. He was a great player. You're just left with a feeling of what could have been. But we wish him well wherever he ends up. You'll always have a place in our hearts in Vancouver, Pedro. All the best to you, man. And Pedro was just one of several players announced either as coming and going, as the Whitecaps made their options accepted and declined public today. Not a lot of surprises in there. We're gonna cover a lot of that as the podcast goes on, so we won't cover that too much just now. What everyone is really waiting for is what players are the Whitecaps going to add to their squad. And there's a couple of names kind of popping up here and there at the moment. Nothing definite. And the first little interview that we're going to bring you is a chat we had with Robbo. Mostly myself. Our good friend Harjeet Jahal jumped in with a question as well. But this was a chat that I had with Robbo just towards the end of the season. And we had a chat about A few things which are still very relevant, and we never brought you this audio at the time. I used a few of the quotes in a few articles, but we talked about the need for difference makers, what he's looking for, where he's heading to this pre-season. Is the South American experiment over, or does he still have hopes at adding Latino talent? And have they fitted in as well as you would maybe have hoped or wanted this year? There definitely seemed to be a little bit of tension between the Spanish-speaking guys and the English-speaking guys. You could say that boiled over a little bit between David Ousted and Pedro, but there was other things going on there as well. But we talked about that, a little bit about Alphonso Davies as well. So let's hear now from head coach Carl Robinson. Bobby was on TV and radio, just saying the same thing that he said about a year ago, which is what a lot of folks said. It's like, it's a year down the road, he's giving out the same messages. What would you say to the fans that are saying that? It's like, that was what we heard a year ago about bringing in difference makers, bringing in guys that's going to score goals, and we never saw anything.
Well, I don't like TV, so you won't see me on TV. That's the first thing. No, we've got a lot of work to do in relation to trying to bring better players to this football club, and I know that. And in the next 3 weeks or so, when the games, I will be already on my travels looking at trying to bring in better players. And that was the chance that we tried to do last year. We tried to bring in players from outside the league. Inside the league, sometimes players are a little bit more expensive because the value is higher based upon allocation money, draft picks, etc. We do need difference makers in the team. Obviously, that's pretty clear, especially after this season. And we need people, obviously, to step up their levels as well. So I don't think it's rocket science, but we need to go and find them. And my job is to try and go and find them. Players, whether it'll be South Central America, I'll go to Europe, I'll go to Portugal, so there's a number of stops I've got on my way, but we do need to add players. If we want to be a progressive club and progress every year, you have to deal with some adversity sometimes, and this year we've had some adversity. The guys have worked as hard as they possibly can. Performance levels have been up and down, but we know we're missing things, and I think it was highlighted more this year than it probably was last year. So we've got to be honest enough and admit it, and we are, but we've got to go and find them difference makers, so that'll be a big focus.
The last couple of years you've been big on bringing a Latino talent. Yeah. Is that something you're still wanting to do, or do you think you maybe need to move away from that? Because a lot of the guys just haven't clicked this year.
Yeah, no, that's something I've got to look at. The guys who've come in in the 2-3 years have done very, very well. But sometimes when things don't work out, and obviously certain things haven't panned out this year, you have to be self-reflective enough and be honest enough and make changes. And I will be making changes. So, where I will be trying to find my difference makers from is, I can't guarantee one place or the other at the moment, but I'm certainly looking all over Europe. We're looking in other areas as well to see if we can get a decent deal, because we are working within certain parameters, which is why obviously the Central South Americans have come into the equation over the first 3 years. So we just want good players. I need players that can put the ball in the back of the net and players that can keep the ball out at the back of the net. So, but they cost money.
Bobby talked about getting difference makers to the team, and that obviously costs money. Do you think you need to pay more to get a difference maker to keep up with the Joneses in the league?
Oh, listen, if you're going to try and compare us to Toronto's and Seattle's and New York FC's that spend, no, we're not, and I think that's fair to say. But we want to bring in better players, and the players that we get to work for, or I get to work with, are a great bunch of lads, and I won't fault them. And I know sometimes you think I stick up for them too much based upon their performance, and probably I do. But it is what it is. So we do know we need difference makers. We've got to try and find certain different makers within the parameters that we're working, and we will. Whether that satisfies everyone, I'm not sure. But it will satisfy my group, because we've got some fantastic young talented players here that need guidance, and that's why we talked about leaders and difference makers. And I've said that from halfway through the season, when I just sensed that we're not quite right in certain areas. I had that feeling, and I was proved correct. So I need to remedy that now.
Going back to the Spanish-speaking guys, a couple of weeks ago, everyone was coming off. They were all speaking Spanish.
Yeah.
And then the English guys, it looked like they were left out.
Right.
And a couple of them just kind of looked and shook their head and left.
Yeah.
Do you feel there is not that harmony this year between the team?
Probably there might be. It's, in any football club you always have certain cliques that they do, and there's no difference. It's similar to what we had last year, but football's about winning, and if you're winning, you tend to brush under carpet certain things. Certain players get on with certain players better than other players. I don't think it's a language barrier or things like that. I just think people tend to like other players better than other players, and that's a reality. They tend to probably like coaches better than other coaches. So I don't think it's a big thing. Is it something that will change? Yeah, maybe. I don't look at what language players speak when I bring them in. I tend to look at what quality of players we have and what we can bring to the group that we already have. And we've got some fantastic, young, talented, English-speaking North American Canadian players. And we want to try and add to that. And, I don't think we've got it quite right this year, but we will get it right next year.
I'm talking to those guys. Alphonso, the hype's just going through the roof now with all the reports of scouts and stuff. You've tried to keep it under wraps.
Yep.
What do you do now for next season? Because it's just going to get worse.
Just continue to keep him away from you. That's all I can. Listen, the boy is 15 years of age.
Yeah.
It's, I know what I'm doing in relation to young players and development of players. And people might think I'm overprotective of certain players and certain things at certain times. And it's about protecting the player. The player's got his whole career ahead of him. He's an exceptional young talent. But he's 15 years of age, so let's do everything we can to make sure we help and nurture him, and not try and have a negative effect on him, because people will talk about him, and rightly so, but let him do his talking on the field at the moment, because if you don't, then he just becomes another one of a very talented number of players that don't fulfil their potential, and that's what I want to try and avoid.
Okay, thanks, Carl.
Okay, mate.
Cheers.
No
See you later. So Robbo there talking about his plans for this off-season. He's already been on his trip down to South America. He's back up here just now, doing his punditry for TSN. Will anything productive come from that trip? You kind of have to think so. We'll try and find out a little bit more about that. We'll be having our annual sit-down chat with Robbo before the end of the year, so we'll bring you that soon. The players and the difference makers that Robbo needs to bring in, it's very clear to everyone. They need the striker, they need the number 10. Both of those guys are going to be DPs. Spot cleared up now with Pedro Morales officially moving on. He needs to get a starting right back and a backup right back, and a few other little pieces here and there just to kind of strengthen the squad. I'd like to see a couple of strikers brought in. Eric Hurtado was, in some ways, the biggest surprise today in the announcement of what options have been taken up and roster changes for 2017. It's no surprise that Robbo rates him and wants to keep him around. He's extended his contract with another 2-year option at the end of it, and that's going to baffle a number of people. But he is cheap, and he does find the goals, but I want him as my fourth choice striker. So depending on what's going to happen with Kudo, Blas Perez has obviously moved on as well. You are looking at bringing in at least one, maybe two strikers. A lot of rumours coming out of Honduras that Romel Kyoto is going to come to Vancouver. The rumours about that, of course, before this season passed, after Olympia had come up here in 2015 for the Champions League games. Nothing came then, but really, really strong rumours coming out of Honduras that the deal is done and Kyoto will be announced quite soon. He won't, of course, be coming as the DP, so there's other names getting floated about, a few guys in the Mexican league that Robbo might be looking at. Robbo also mentioned there that he's going to be going to Portugal, other places in Europe. He's been down in Argentina and Brazil, and I have heard that there is a player in the Argentine league, a number 10, eager to come to MLS. Won't say what club he's with just now, but it's one of the big clubs, so it's curious to see whether that's one of the guys that Robbo's looking at. There's also a player at Las Palmas in La Liga that is keen to come to MLS as well, so he's another guy that might be on Robbo's radar. Naturally, folk are getting impatient, which is silly because it's December. It's like there's no point announcing and signing these guys now. Lot of time to get these players signed. Most of the announcements will come in January. think folk are just a little bit more impatient because you've got Toronto and Seattle playing the MLS Cup final on Saturday. Worst final for everyone, really. Have to admit, I'm not planning on watching it. I had originally planned to go out to a VMSL game on Saturday afternoon, give me an excuse not to watch it. Reno's Tigers against Campo Atletico, 4 o'clock kickoff at Trillium Park. With the snow, I'm not 100% sure that game's going to be on, but it is a horrendous MLS Cup. It's one of those ones, it's like, who do you want to win? Someone has to win. Who do you want to win? Do you want to cheer on the Canadian team that sets a really bad example for the league with the amount of money that they've spent? Or do you want to cheer on your Cascadian rivals who you'll just never hear the end of? And it's going to be even worse if Portland win it last year, Seattle win it this year. Either way, no matter which team wins it, the pressure is definitely going to be amped up on the Whitecaps to do something, to get in the playoffs and make a deep charge next year. Of course, no one at the club is going to admit that that puts added pressure on them. But really, I mean, it has to. And if they're saying it's not, it's ridiculous, because it definitely does. I'm a guy that I've never been for spending vast amounts of money just for the sake of it. But you do get what you pay for. There are diamonds in the rough. I'm not saying there isn't. Pedro Morales came here and showed what is possible, bringing in an unknown guy on the cheap in his first season. Didn't work out in seasons 2 and 3, but a lot of that was due to his body being beat up with the turf and other things. But another season where the club doesn't spend and doesn't make the playoffs is just going to switch so many people off here, and it's a risky strategy to have. I feel that some money is going to have to get spent, and I do feel that Seattle, Toronto winning the Cup is going to turn the pressure up. Maybe not as much as some fans would want, but definitely going to turn the pressure up in the Whitecaps front office. And one of the players that the Whitecaps brought in last year, which was the hope to be a difference maker, was Costa Rican veteran midfielder Christian Bolaños. And Bola definitely made a difference in a number of areas. But at the same time, it was a frustrating season for Bola, and we got a chance to catch up with him just before the end of the season. I'm going to play this for you in full now. You might have read a little bit of this on goal.com. But just kind of chat about the Whitecaps season past, what needs to be done to make the team stronger moving forward, and also a little bit of a chat just about his World Cup dreams with Costa Rica. So let's hear now from Christian Bolaños. First thing to ask you, Christian, it's been a tough season MLS-wise. Yeah. How do you view the season, first of all for the team and then for you individually?
Like as a team, we've been for ups and downs. That makes bad confidence, in the last 10 games. Because I think we're doing well in the first half, of the season, but the last 10 games, I think it started with losing the cup final, with Toronto. This game, we draw. I don't remember if we lose in the same team, So we don't get confidence after that. We tried to fight, but in football it's not easy when you don't get confidence and you only try to work hard, and try to get the results. But I think we play some games very well, but we don't get a good, lucky in that games. But in other games, we don't deserve to win because we don't do the right job. So that's how it is. But I think even if you go to the playoff and you don't go to the final, it's a bad season. So it doesn't matter if you go to the playoff and you play 1-2 games and you go out. It's the same thing. So for me, it's if you go to the playoff and you have to go straight to the last game. So we have to learn about that, about this year. Even if you could go last year, they being in the playoff, don't the people don't think that this team cannot make through, to the next year. I think we have to learn. We have a lot of young players, a lot of talented. We have to improve, next year. But for me, in the season individual, I think it's well. I make some goals. I make assists. I play many games, but I am part of this team. If we lose, I am there. When we win, I am there too. So I think it's more as a team than individually, because if we know we can be more strong and play as a team, we can win the games with more confidence.
This is your first year in the league. A lot of players, when they come over, it takes them a little bit of adjustment, the travel, the different kind of pitches, everything like that. How have you found the league this year? Have you enjoyed it? I've been also in the national team, and I enjoy all the time this league. Like you say, it's a lot of traveling. I think that's hard work for us, especially for Canadian team. We have to travel all the way the country, and that takes time to take recovery and to be in a good shape. So we have to prepare well all the time, to take rest and to eat well, to rest. So it's not easy for us, but for me, I enjoy all the time. It's great guys. The staff is great people. The coaches, we training very well. But that's happening in football. You do all your best. You're trying to training hard, but when you don't get results, everybody think everything is bad. But I think everything is not bad. I think it's only to be focused in the small teams. Like I said before, we cannot lose the games when you have 10 seconds left. So these small details, we have to learn about that. That's football. That's part of the job, and I think we can be better next year. And looking into next year, I take it you definitely want to still be here next year.
This league is special. They have some rules, but I have 1 more year contract. That's football here. I hope so. I can stay here. I am very happy here. So you have to see what's going on.
Looking at Costa Rica now, big World Cup qualifiers coming up. Really tough games. Obviously, 3-4 teams can go through. What are you hoping for from these qualifiers for the team?
Yeah, like you say, it's very difficult to win every game. So the key for us is to win all the games in Costa Rica, in home. That's we do in the last World Cup, the last qualification games. When you play away, you have to go and play very smart. It's very tough games when you play away. In home also, but you get the crowd, the fans, and you get more confidence. And so that's how it is. We start in November away against Trinidad and Tobago. I think we have good chances to win that game. We have to play the second game against USA in Costa Rica. So it's a difficult game, but we play at home, so they know already that they have really difficult and tough game there.
What would it mean to you to go and play another World Cup finals with Costa Rica?
For me, it means a lot. I've been in 2, so this is my last time in the national team. I take my friends, my teammates, and the coaches. It's a great opportunity, to say goodbye, to the national team, to go through, to qualify to the World Cup in Russia. If I can be there, I'm so proud about my country again and my teammates. Of course, it's my dream.
That's great. Thank you so much and good luck.
You're welcome.
Thanks,
Thank
Paula.
you.
Christian Bolaños there, and Bola's made a great start with his Costa Rican team in the World Cup qualifiers. Fantastic win over the States. 2 wins so far, topping the group with 6 points. Looking good for Bola returning to the World Cup for a third time, as he mentioned there. It's his dream. It's basically what he's wanting before he hangs his boots up on the international level. He had a lot of stick this year. We've talked about it before in the podcast. A lot of guys don't like what he brings to the team defensively, but you cannot argue with what he's brought to the team offensively. I mean, led the team in assists, second in goals. Fantastic. 8 assists, 5 goals. It's what you want from your midfielder, more than defending, really. I know that MLS is a league where midfielders and strikers are having to defend a lot more than possibly a lot of the flair guys have to do in other leagues. But to me, Bola was our player of the season. Looking forward to seeing what he can do next year with maybe a couple of strikers that can put the ball in the net and just a little bit of maybe some other people that's on the same wavelength as him. Players that can read the game and know where he's going to pass and know where he's going to run to. And I think we've still to see the best from Bola, and he showed in those 2 games for Costa Rica just what an exciting player and a dangerous player and a productive player he can be despite his age as a veteran. And I think 2017, we're going to see the best of Bola. So Bolaños is one of the veterans in the team. Another veteran that was brought in the summer, David Edgar, Canadian international, had a bit of a slow start coming to the Whitecaps in pre-season form after basically being in the off-season after a season on loan with Sheffield United. Took a few games to find his feet. Again, he's a player that the jury seems to be out on him with a number of fans. Does he give the Whitecaps what they need? Are the Whitecaps better with him in the lineup, without him in the lineup? Should he be partnering Kendall Waston as your starting centre-back pairing? Should it be him and Tim Parker? Should it be Parker and Kendall Waston? A lot of questions around that, and definitely a battle on the cards in that position in the pre-season. Also add Christian Dean to the mix there, who's going to be back hungry and wanting to show the Whitecaps what he can offer them. Christian got his option picked up today, as did Cole Seiler and Tim Parker. So we're going to have all 5 centre-backs back next year, pending trades, transfers, drafts. A lot can happen before first kick in March. But we're going to bring you a chat now with David Edgar. This is a chat myself and Josh Clipperton from Canadian Press had with Edgar in the last week of the season, just before the Portland Timbers game. So we chat about a few things, especially how he's settling into MLS and what his plans might be for the off-season. Something which, as a guy that's played all these years in England, having the winter off, not something he's used to. And we started by asking him just how has he found this season and just where has it all gone wrong for the Whitecaps?
I just think we've underachieved definitely since the transfer window. Since I've been here, in terms of the quality we've got and what we've missed out in the playoffs, we knew we were good enough to make the playoffs, and we just fell short of that.
I know you haven't been in MLS for too long, but you see teams rebound. Like Colorado was bottom of the table for 2 years in a row. Now they're top. On the outside looking in, you might look at this team and think, "Wow, they're really far away." They're second from bottom. Yeah. But how far is this team away? Do you think?
No, it's marginal. I mean, it's just little tweaks, things that didn't go our way, and a bit of bad luck here and there, bad performances. But it's minimal, very minimal, and I think we're thereabouts. And like you say, in this league, anything can happen.
Just final one for me. What do you think is missing? I mean, I know you don't make the decisions, but what does this team need more bite? What do you think is lacking?
That's hard to put your finger on as well. I mean, it was almost, since I've been here, almost a confidence thing because results weren't going our way. So in football, as in any sport, when things aren't going your way, it feels like everything goes against you in terms of results and whatnot. But it's hard to put your finger on what's missing. It's just minimal things, like small things.
You've been here 5 months now. How have you found the play, considering for what you've been used to in the Premiership?
It's different. It was there was a bit of a transition, but it's very athletic here. Boys, fast, strong, athletic boys. Compared to England, compared to what I've been used to, but that's a transition. But the quality's there for everyone to see. I mean, in terms of individual qualities, fantastic in the league.
Now, some of the guys that when they come over from England, and obviously you came over, it was like off-season there. What's your plans for the off-season? Are you wanting to like have a little loan deal or a training stint back in the UK to keep sharp?
I don't know. I mean, it's sat here with a week left of the season. It feels weird for me because I feel like I haven't had a full season, which technically I haven't because it was my off season in England. But it feels a bit strange. But I don't know. We'll have to sit down with the gaffer and obviously I've got an off season program to do. But I don't know if anything comes up in England. We'll have to see.
And I wear it for my lady, the Canadian flag, baby.
So David Edgar there. Like Bolaños, I think we've still got to see the best of Edgar coming. He's a guy that I think will be the captain next year with Morales moving on. It's a natural choice for me. He is a leader. He's vocal. He's a guy that, from what we've been told, he's not afraid to challenge folk in the locker room and to call players out. And that's what you need. And it's something which Morales just did not offer as a captain. Moving forward, the Whitecaps definitely need some older heads that just aren't afraid to stand up and be counted. And you've got him, you've got Usted, Jordan Harvey. There's guys there that can do it. But for me, depending on who comes in, Edgar should be the natural choice for captain next year. So from one Canadian player who is going to be around next year to another one that isn't. Fraser Aird, it was officially confirmed today, has moved on, but Fraser had already said his goodbye a few weeks ago on Twitter, flew back to Glasgow, has been training with the Rangers team, not made it back into the team yet, and I honestly don't think he is going to. But we had a chat with Fraser just in the last week of the season. Obviously, this is a little bit out of date now because he has moved on, but I just wanted to play it for you in full. You probably read a little bit of it in the piece I did on goal.com around it, but this is the full unedited version. And we're chatting to Fraser about his time in Vancouver, how he's found it, and just what was his thought processes as to whether he wanted to still be here or head back to Scotland. So we know now that he has headed back to Scotland, but this is him in his own words explaining just what he was thinking, what he needs to do in the future, and a few things around that. And it wasn't going to be an easy decision for him, but he's Rangers through and through. Rangers daft, as Robbo described him to me, and he's back there now. So let's hear some of those thoughts now from Fraser Aird.
Tamata wakatangi hangi kuwe uo tamataya turi puka kapiki monga hora nuku poka wena wakatana tahu mataku waitanga nuru kawa mikitora.
Obviously you came here wanting to make an impression either here or for Rangers back home. How do you feel your season's gone?
Up and down, to be honest. I think I started the season, maybe first game wasn't the best. After that I thought I picked up every single game I played. And then got a little injury. Manager obviously left me out the team for a few games. Tough to get back in. And then ever since then it's kind of been in and out and haven't really had any consistency. So it's been tough. When you're not playing every week, it's tough, you know. When you're coming in games and getting dropped and coming in, it's tough. But I think I found that consistency at the start of the year, and I was obviously wanting to keep that up for the full year, but it's tough, you know. You get little injuries and the team changed, the performances, it's tough. But no, I've enjoyed it. Obviously, if the results went a little bit better and we were in the playoffs, I probably would have enjoyed it a little bit more. But no, it's been good, a good learning curve. I've got valuable minutes in my new position, which is good. That's what I came here for. So hopefully I can take that experience and just build on it.
I spoke to Robbo and he was saying he really wants you here next year.
Yeah.
But he knows that you're Rangers through and through and you really want to go and try and show that you can break into the team there. Is that what you're thinking? Are you wanting to go back to Scotland?
To be honest, I'm not too sure yet. I've not even made up my mind. I need to sit down with my agent. I haven't even spoke to Robbo. I need to do that once the season finishes, but at this moment in time, obviously we just wanted to finish off the season. We still have one more game to go, massive game for us. Could decide their season, and obviously still the Cascadian Cup to play for, and it's a derby game. Every derby game is massive. So once that's finished, then hopefully we can sit down and see what's happening. But Going forward, I don't really know what's happening yet and can't give you a definite answer because I don't even know.
If you went back to Scotland with Rangers, there's obviously not a guarantee that you'd be involved with the first team there. You've not been involved with the first team here. It's maybe hard for you to say you've not made a decision, but like if you were not going to be a starter in either team, would you look at maybe going somewhere else altogether?
That's one thing that I need to discuss. Speak to my agent, speak to the managers, both managers, and see what the plan is for the future, you know. It's easy talking about week in, week out, but you need to have a plan for the future. I want to play. Obviously got called into the national team. They want to see me play too. So whatever's the best option for me, hopefully they have that in consideration, and then we can go from there.
That was actually the last thing I was going to ask you about. That it was like you were involved with the Canadian team there, which was weird because when you were playing they didn't call you up, and then you're not playing and then they called you up. For you, international wise, you obviously need to be playing. Is that going to really build into the decision that you make, that you want to be somewhere where you can start for international play?
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone wants to play for the country. It's probably one of the greatest honours you can have in football is playing for your country. I've had a taste of it. Obviously got another 2 caps away in the camp there. So hopefully I can build on that. But as I said before, you need to be playing week in, week out, in my opinion, to play at the international level so you're ready when you get called upon. So that'll definitely have a big factor in my decision going forward.
That's great.
I hope silver away, right into tomorrow today. But who was that masked man you say? That was the Lone Ranger. I hope silver away, right into tomorrow today. But who was that masked man you say? That was the Lone Ranger.
So Fraser Aird there, no longer a Lone Ranger. It's going to be interesting though to see just how he does back in Glasgow. I mean, he's got a club that he was out of favour with Mark Warburton when he came in to be the manager, was deemed surplus to requirements when Rangers were in the second tier of Scottish football. For me, he hasn't done enough to merit being in favour in the Premiership now, and it's going to be tough. If he had come to Vancouver, played mostly every game, excelled, and then gone back there, I think he would have maybe had a chance of cracking into the Rangers first team squad. It's going to be really difficult now for him. I think he will move on, possibly back out on loan to another Scottish club, maybe another Premiership club, League One side, St Mirren, Dundee United, Hibs maybe. One of the top teams in the division just below, but it's going to be hard for him, and he's got a lot of questions to kind of mull over as to exactly what he wants to do with his career now. But we'll follow him closely, we wish him all the best, and see what happens for him in the future. Who knows? He might be back in Vancouver again one day. So with all the departures announced today, the Whitecaps still actually have 26 signed players on their roster for next season. And with all the players that are going to be coming in, I think it's pretty fair to say that those 26 players are not going to be on the roster by the time first kick comes around in March. There's going to be a few trades to be had. Some players might get waived. Some players just might want to ask to get moved on and sold or whatever. And amongst the guys that we're expecting to actually get an MLS contract from the USL team is goalkeeper Spencer Ritchie. So we're going to bring you a chat now with Spencer Ritchie. We talked to Spencer in the week before the Western Conference final, so the last week of the Whitecaps season. Myself and Mark Weber doing the chat here. We just talked about the season he's had and his hopes for the future and a lot more besides. So let's hear now from WFC goalkeeper Spencer Ritchie. Let's kick things off. Like you've had a second season with the USL team, so things are looking really, really good. Obviously for the team just now. The turnaround that you've seen from year one to year two, how would you sum that up?
Inevitable. I think that it's with your first season, everyone from the players to the coaches to the medical staff to, even to the guys in the front office are trying to figure out what works best and, how to manage the change of players coming up and down in the schedule. I mean, we were making roster changes pretty close to the start of the year and obviously throughout it. So, I think it was inevitable that this year we were going to come out and have a more solid team, get off to a better start. But I don't know if we had predicted we'd, have this good of a year. But that was our expectation, and we're happy to be where we're at.
Obviously you had your college career and you played PDL for a number of seasons as well.
Mm-hmm.
What's the biggest differences, or how much of a difference have you noticed from those levels to the USL?
It's definitely a difference. Actually, the game that we just played against OKC was very much a college PDL style game from a perspective of the set pieces, the packing the 6-yard box, the putting balls on top of a back line and kind of making it a physical, gritty, second balls type of game, which is where they get a lot of their goals. So from that aspect, it was, experiences from PDL and playing big. The college game is much closer physically to the MLS and the USL than it is technically and from a skill level. So from the physical standpoint, I think that it helps you quite a lot. I think the biggest adjustment that I've had to make is the quality of player. And, when you're taking shots against the Pedros and the Masatos, it's a much different, technique and skill level. But the physicality of the game is something that I think I've been pretty well prepared for from those experiences.
I was going to ask you, you're training a lot with the first team, yet you've done that for a while now. So, being in with Ousted and under Maris and all that, how have you seen your game develop in these 2 years?
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, the more you can train with better players and better competition, if you can embrace that and rise to that occasion, it's only going to make you better in the long run. It's kind of one of those, if you're the best player on your own team, then you probably should find a new team type of deal. Not saying that was the case with me with USL, but it's the reality. If you train with good players day in and day out, it's going to make you better, and that's certainly the case with Dave. He's been awesome with me, giving me tips and pointers along the way, and it's fun to be able to pick stuff out of his book and Paulo's and even Ducci's. It's fun to train with good goalkeepers. You can take a page out of their book, add it to yours, and it'll make you a better player for it.
What about the CCL opportunities for you, Spencer? How much has that meant to you, and having success in that competition?
Yeah, no, those are those are huge, massive games. Those are obviously games that that have meaning. They're first team games. Especially going down to KC, playing in that stadium is pretty incredible. It's big. It's big for confidence. It's big for experiences. It definitely gives me a boost. I feel prepared and confident going into those games and then performing well and getting a win down in Trinidad, a win in Kansas City definitely gives me even more confidence coming back onto the training field, and it starts to become a snowball effect, and that's when you start stringing together good performances. So those have been huge, and hopefully there'll be more of those in the near future.
At college, you're used to being, well, not I guess so much when you've been a senior and doing really well, but being in and out of the team, lots of guys get chances. At USL, where you've got yourself, you've got Marco, you've got Sean, even Paolo coming down, how difficult is it for you to be in and out of the team like that?
Yeah, it's obviously each and every one of us would like to play every game of the entire season, and the other guys would say the same. That's not the current situation at hand, so it's it is what it is. It's last year I think we had more of we kind of did one game and rotate, and this year we kind of sat down and what's a way that you can get into more of a rhythm, which is massive as a goalkeeper. So much of your position is the decision-making aspect of it. With it's become so much easier with those string of games. So this year we've kind of tried to do 2-3 games in a row at a time, so you kind of get into a swing of thing that way. If it works both ways. If you play well on one weekend, then the next weekend you got lots of confidence going into a game and it's coming up quick. Or if you play poorly in a weekend, instead of watching from the sideline for the next 3 weeks, you maybe got another game the next week. You got to redeem yourself. So it's not the most ideal, but at the end of the day, you got to make do with the situation at hand. So
growing up in Seattle, Spencer, was it how much were the Sounders kind of a part of your life, and was that a dream to play Century Link for those guys?
Actually, not as much. People ask me that quite often. Not as much as the Mariners and the Sonics and the Seahawks. The MLS side wasn't around until I think 2007, 2008, which is actually the year that I moved from Seattle down to Florida for the under-17 residency system for a few years. So I never actually, it wasn't one of my childhood sports teams. I was very much more American football and basketball and baseball. So maybe it's maybe that's why I ended up here. But it was inevitable. But no, I didn't really grow up supporting them. I didn't follow much in the league they were in before the MLS. So
it's not strange at all for you.
No, it's not. So obviously a big Seattle sports fan, but no real ties or childhood memories supporting the Sounders. So
yeah. What about that time in Florida for you? Was that a real important?
It was life changing. It truly was. It was an absolute grind for 2 years. It's not the most. It looks glamorous, and we get to go on the awesome trips, and they're all paid for by Nike, and that aspect of it. It was absolutely life changing. I remember, a month before I got that call, it was my dream to play college soccer, and I get the call, and by the time I moved down there, there's already 20 letters from college teams, getting in touch with me that never even seen me play before. So that, set me up well for university and gave me a ton of experience, against international teams. Played against Neymar and Coutinho in Brazil back in the day when people didn't quite know who they were. So I would totally do it again. It was 100% worth it, but it was definitely a grind for those 2 years. So.
I can ask you this now that Carol's not standing right behind you. What's your hopes then for next season? MLS contract with the way that you've played, either here or somewhere else?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that's the goal. Not just next year, at any given week for that matter. Trying to put myself into that category, kind of make it so. I've played, so well that it's that they don't really have a choice at that point. It's what you want to do, but. It's next year, and, we'll cross that bridge once the season ends. But for now, just kind of focused on, day in and day out training. And
what would your focus be this offseason, you think, just to come into camp, assuming you get a look at MLS training camp next year?
Yeah, just, definitely take a bit of time off once the season ends. I think lots of guys, myself including, are carrying little niggles, little knocks. So definitely, come in, take my time off, but, once, a few, 3-4 weeks has gone by, definitely staying sharp, staying fit, and, that's something, unfortunately, I maybe had an opportunity last year to earn an MLS deal and had to do a little off-season hernia procedure that set me back a little. So I was bummed I couldn't come in fully fit for opening day, but hopefully that won't be the case this year, and I have no injury of that magnitude now, so there's no reason I shouldn't be healthy coming into preseason.
Growing up, were there guys you modeled your game after? Who were the goalkeepers you were looking up to?
I was always a big Casillas fan. I just admired his reaction saves, his game-changing, his ability to pick balls out, whether it's from distance or especially his. The amount of saves that he made within 12 yards was remarkable when he was in his prime, and that's something that I, watched as a kid growing up and even tried to model after myself. We have similar frames as well, so it's easy for me to, try to model my game off a Neuer or a Joe Hart that's got quite a few inches on me. But no, he was someone from his shot stopping and his reaction abilities was something I admired growing up.
Has your family had a chance to come up and watch you play a lot?
Yeah, quite a lot. It's actually one of my dad's favorite cities before he got drafted up here, so he was pretty stoked in a couple years ago. So no, it's awesome being only 2.5-3 hours away. So it's pretty fun when they get to come up, and I get if we got a couple days off, it's fun to be able to go down there. So it's a lucky situation.
Yeah.
Beat me
So Spencer Ritchie there. And with the news that came out today that Marco Carducci's option hasn't been taken up by the Whitecaps, but they have taken up the new option on Paolo Tornaghi. It looks like Spencer Ritchie is going to be the number 3 keeper on the MLS squad. A well-deserved reward there for Spencer after 2 excellent seasons with WFC2. He's shown in the 2 seasons here that he's definitely got the potential and the ability to play at the top level for the Whitecaps. Done excellently in the Champions League games that he played this year. And he's going to be battling Paolo for that number 2 spot on the team, but also he's got the benefit of still being able to play in the USL and getting those regular minutes, which of course Paolo Tornaghi hasn't been getting. And in a number of ways, I thought Paolo would move on, and there's still a chance that he might not be here by the time that next season starts. But with Spencer Ritchie, what you don't want from a young guy like Spencer is for him to sign that MLS contract and basically just be sitting on the bench behind David Ousted week after week after week, not getting minutes apart from the odd WFC2 game. Now he can get his MLS contract, still play regularly in the USL, and take his opportunity when it does come along. So wish him all the best when that happens. And I have to say a little bit about Marco Carducci moving on. It is sad to see Marco go after all these years with the club. I mean, we've watched him, we've cheered him on from when he was like 14, 15, playing with the under-16s. Always been a pleasure to speak to Marco. We've had him on the podcast a number of different times. Check out those old episodes. Great to talk to. A quality keeper. And I like how Robo basically said that the door is being left open. That after he's got 1 or 2 years as a starting keeper, regular minutes under his belt, the door is open for Marco to come back and play for the Whitecaps again. We'd love to see it. We wish him well. He's a great lad. Definitely needs to be playing regularly. He's not going to get that here. Even if he stayed and was playing with WFC2, the best he can kind of hope for is every other week or every other game that he's going to be playing for the Whitecaps. Not ideal for a young guy that needs to play now, needs to develop. Hopefully he can get a good club and a move that he wants, and we just wish Marco all the very best for the future. So that's it for this episode of the podcast. We're going to be back soon. Got a number of things lined up. As we mentioned earlier, we'll be having our sit-down chat with Robbo, our annual end-of-season State of the Whitecaps chat with him. We're also going to have our Christmas special. And then moving into the new year, we've got a couple of exciting new projects coming up. There's something which we've been talking about for a couple of weeks now, but we've never been able to reveal yet. We've got a big change coming to the podcast, so we will announce that very, very soon, I promise. Just been a few issues to sort out with that. And then there's another little project I'm working on, which is involving video. And we're hoping to do a couple of fun things with some video. Get some stuff going on YouTube, and I think you'll like it. It's going to be very unique and hopefully a lot of fun. So watch out for those announcements soon. In the meantime, I'm Michael McCall, and you can find me on Twitter at AFTN Canada. Read all our stuff, AFTN, away from the numbers, on aftn.ca. I'm also the Whitecaps beat reporter for MLSsoccer.com and Goal.com. And I'm also the Western Conference reporter for USLsoccer.com. So check out all my stuff on that from the season past and then what is to come. Hopefully you all survive this snow this coming weekend. Don't get too depressed watching the MLS Cup on Saturday. Kind of hard not to. And just look forward to some Whitecaps announcements down the line. Hopefully some new players coming. Everyone's just eager to get them. When we will see them, who knows? But they'll be coming. No point in rushing. Get it properly, take your time, get the right players, and make a push for 2017. So as always, thanks for listening. Take care. And until next time, Mon the Caps.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.